my boy, Blue!
Welcome to the Built After Hours podcast, hosted by industry expert Edwin Eaton, where we talk with the bold entrepreneurs who built their service businesses after the world clocked out. Real talk, real risk, real results. Let's get into it.
Shake it, bake!
Welcome back to the Built After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Edwin Eaton. Today's guest has an incredible story. He came to the U.S. at just 18 years old, worked every kind of job you can imagine, and along the way discovered that building his own business was his ultimate dream. And where is he chasing that dream? None other than the biggest stage of them all, New York City. We're diving into his start, the struggles he's overcome, the wins he's earned, and what it really takes to grow a cleaning business in America's most competitive market. Please join me in welcoming the owner of ShineUp Services, Erick Hines. Erick, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Edwin?
I'm good. Listen, you and I met a couple times, right? We met, I think the first place we met was Denver, wasn't it? At the Profitable Cleaner event?
Yes.
And just recently, a couple weeks ago, we reconnected down in Nashville as well.
Yeah.
So,
But we have been in touch we've been in touch for a while.
we have.
Yeah.
Yep. I follow you. You follow me. I mean, we keep in touch. We talk, and this is good. And I'm glad to finally have you on the show. I've been twisting your arm to get you to come on the show. So I'm glad you finally said, you know what, I'm going to do it.
I said, you know what, I can't turn him down anymore. He's going to give up on me, and I'm glad you haven't. I'm glad you didn't give up on me. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. And I would continue. Listen, just like in sales, I can be told no 1,000 times, but I'm going to continue pushing until I get that yes. So I'm glad I got that yes from you. But listen, you and I know each other, but for the listeners that don't, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and about your business?
So my name is Erick Hines. I run ShineUp Services. It's a commercial cleaning company here in New York. July, we turned 2 years in business. So it's still my baby. It's relatively new, and we're excited about it. But as for me, when I came to the U.S., I mean, again, I've seen a lot of your interviews, and like many others, right? I couldn't speak the language. It was stuff I couldn't understand some of a lot of the culture. But little by little, I started working. I worked every single job you could possibly imagine. I did painting. I actually cut grass with a machete, but I did everything you can possibly think of. And then one time, my uncle called me. He was in facilities, and he said, I got you a job, and you will be cleaning offices. And I said, really? I mean, from painting to construction and everything else, doing cleaning offices, that's not bad. So I show up. I had to show up at 6 a.m, and you get dispatched to these other buildings and covering for vacation and whatnot. It was a union job. I wasn't part of the union at the time, but I was covering vacation time. 6 a.m, they send me to this building, and the foreman tells me when I show up. The foreman tells me, "All right, do me a favor, just grab that broom and a dustpan, just go around the building picking up cigarette butts." And I'm like, I'm 18, I'm 19, and I'm like, I still have that pride. Like, I don't know if I want to clean like that, and people looking at me like that, like the entire Manhattan people looking at me. I had that little in me still, but as I did it more and more, I kind of got used to it. And that's how I kind of loosened up with being a day porter, cleaning offices, bathrooms, and everything else.
That's an amazing story. And cutting grass with a machete. I've never heard that. So that's pretty cool. But, I've talked to a few other guests on the show where it's like we do some of these other jobs, but I think we learn some type of skill set from these jobs that help us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, along our journey, whether we believe it or not. I mean, just even little jobs that I had have helped me through the years. But so you're doing a little bit of everything. You're in the biggest market in the United States. I mean, you could go down a block, and I mean, one block is probably worth millions upon millions of dollars, for those types of accounts. But doing everything that you did, what made you decide to start a cleaning business in New York, in the toughest market in the US? What went through your head there? I mean, what made you say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do this.
Well, again, when I didn't stay there for a while, but I became an electrician actually, but again, I'm just gonna continue. I'll give you a little bit more, and you'll understand why I decided to do it. So
Yep.
basically, when I left that, I became an electrician, right? So I started working all the buildings in the city, and I kind of started to understand facilities a little bit more, right? How everything operated and everything else. Great, being well compensated, making money, doing overtime, and then nothing wrong. Became a supervisor. Now I'm quality control. I'm inspecting now, and then I applied for a job because I was like, I'm doing overtime, but when I became a supervisor, it was salary. Uh, I was salary employee, and I didn't even know what to do with my time. I was going home, and I was telling my wife, I can't be here just watching TV. I got to do something. So I saw this post, and it said supervisor slash something, but that something I missed it. So I applied for the job, and the owner of the company calls me. It's a cleaning company. The guy calls me. He says, "This is Friday." And he goes, "Oh yeah, perfect." Blah, blah, blah." He shows my resume. He sees my resume, and then we meet on Monday. And he says, "Okay, so this is a supervisory position. You're gonna be supervising these two people, and then you're gonna be doing some cleaning." And I'm like, after all these years, I thought I wasn't gonna clean again, and I was, my thoughts were, I'm only gonna supervise people, right? That's me thinking already. Like I don't want to clean anymore. So it's like the industry kept the cleaning part kept calling me. So I stayed with the company because I had given the owner my word, and I didn't want to let him down. They were going to lose the contract, so we turned it around, and everything kept working and working. And then I became a manager. And then from there on, I became a senior manager and then a director of operations. Learned so much, ran the company practically, and kind of did it my way. But I couldn't do it my way 100%. And that's one of the things that caught my attention. I was like, I need to do this. It happened suddenly. It's like I wasn't even thinking, because I was never in my no one in my family ever had a company or had their own business, or was never an entrepreneur. So for me, it was like it was all new, right? But I'm learning, and I said to my wife, I think we can do this ourselves. I don't see why not. And that's exactly what happened. One day I said, you know what? I'm going to resign. And mind you, I'm being well compensated. There's nothing wrong. They love me. I love them. I practically, started a company from the bottom up, and that's exactly how it happened. It was just sudden. Why in New York? Just because I live here, but no specific reason. But that's exactly how it happened. It was just a change of mind, a sudden change of mind that said, you know what, you can do this.
That is a very cool story, because I've again, we know each other, but I've never actually heard the story of how you got into
Right.
it. So very cool. I mean, everybody's got their own stories and how they got into the industry, but that's awesome from your part. You knew that you had it in you because you were running another company, pretty much doing it your way. You just wanted to break off and really do it your way. So very, very cool to hear that. Now, question for you, because I think your logo is it's pretty slick, man. It looks really good. So, I do a lot of consulting. Some of the biggest issues that come up aren't about sales or anything like that. In the beginning, it's, I don't know how to come up with a name for my business. So how did you come up with the name ShineUp Services?
It's funny you asked that question, because I've always wanted to tell the story. I never really had a chance to say those, to actually tell anyone,
Well, here you
other than
go.
my
Here you go.
other than my close circle. So my last name is Hines, right? So I moved the S to the front, the last S, Hines, and I moved it to now it says Shine, right? And so Shine Up. I said, what else can I, link it with? And I said Shine Up, and I called it services simply because I didn't want to call it cleaning only, right? Like Shine Up Cleaning, because then now I got to do cleaning on, right? And I wanted to be known as services because we can do cleaning, we can do painting, we can do uh, floor work, we can do landscape, everything. So that's how I came up with the name. And the logo, I actually designed it in my head. And I knew the colors and I knew exactly how I wanted it, but to make it look a little bit more professional, I paid this marketing company that gave me a couple of samples once they put it together, and that's exactly how I came up with it.
Awesome story. You move one letter and it just
Yeah.
happens to be Shine, something that has to do
Shine.
with the cleaning industry. Very cool. Let's talk a little bit more about your business then. So you've been in business, you said, for about 2 years now, right?
Right.
So how many employees do you have?
Well, I currently have 45 employees.
Okay, 45 employees. And do you do any subcontracting?
I do have three subcontractors that help me out with floor work and other things that I don't necessarily have the equipment for. So that's when I decided to subcontract. But for the most part, we do everything in house.
Okay, I like that. And going back to what you said about your logo and the name, I love that you chose to put services in there because there's a lot of, and if you're a new cleaning business owner listening to this podcast right now and listening to Erick, really listen to what he said about why he came up with services at the end. There's a lot of new commercial cleaning business owners that get into the game and they throw the word cleaning in there. And what happens is it almost kind of puts you in the corner of just being cleaning, or a facilities manager, especially in a market like New York. They're going to look at cleaning and they're probably going to think residential, right?
Exactly.
So services keeps it open to offer any and everything. You said painting, you said floor care. So any services that you can come up with that, have to do with a building, you can take care of that. So
Right.
great job on doing that. And I'm sure that makes you stick out in the market as well by having just that word services there. So over time, obviously, you're still somewhat new, 2 years in the business, but how have your services kind of evolved over the last couple of years? Now, obviously you're using some subcontractors, but when it comes to janitorial, there's other stuff that you have to do too, right? The floor care, like you said, the window cleaning, pressure washing, all that kind of stuff.
Well, currently I advertise now. I mean, it's just 2 years, but I advertise myself as commercial now, right? We advertise ShineUp as commercial. We didn't start as commercial. We actually started residential because when I thought I knew everything, right? It was perfect. I was like, I got the logo, I got the domain, I purchased shirts because I ran a company, so I knew exactly what to do. But I left one thing out: sales, right?
Mm,
Sales. So I got everything, and but the phone is not ringing, right? So now I'm like, well, what did I do? I just resigned and I got everything ready, but the phone is not ringing, right? So I kind of relied on a few people that I knew that promised me a few accounts and be a subcontractor of them, and but they needed insurance, and the insurance here in New York, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's very, very, very expensive, right? So when I found myself in that situation, they were like, all right, listen, I can't take you because I need you to have that insurance coverage and you don't have it. So why don't you do some residential? And I kind of felt bad because I kind of felt insulted, like, mm, you're telling me to just do residential. Like I'm no, I kind of, it was just a weird feeling, but it was the best feeling at the same time because it was like cutting that umbilical cord and I'm being like left out, and now figure it out. You decided to be a business owner, so figure it out. So we started with residential, and now I'm thinking Angelides or Thumbtack or one of those apps,
right.
and
Yeah.
and actually they, I don't recommend those things for scaling a business, but if you don't know and you don't have any other options, that's a good way to start. At least that's how I started, right? And so that gave me a little bit of cash flow, which is what I needed. So little by little, I started landing more commercial contracts, and little by little, I started fading from residential. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's
No, it's
that's
perfect. No, it's
yeah,
perfect. And you kind of touched on really what the biggest pain point is in this industry. Again, I do a lot of consulting. Number one pain point is sales. How
right,
do I get accounts? Everybody thinks that because you have a website, you have a phone number, you've got a logo, you got business cards, that people are going to call you, right? Well, that's
right,
not the case. You have to be
right.
out there grinding. You have to be the one to set that momentum, get out there, figure out what your niche is in the beginning, and start grinding that way. So sales being the biggest pain point, especially in this industry, any industry, but cleaning industry, it's really tough. Now that you've evolved a little bit, Walk us through your sales process. What's the process that you've put together for sales for your company?
Well, that's actually one of my goals. I don't think I'm too proud of my sales strategy yet because I do a little bit of everything, right? I do the marketing that I do is I do email campaigns. I do a little bit of SEO. I do pay per click. I think sometimes it's important when it's well structured. That's one of the things that I use and do. For the most part, I'm the one doing the walkthroughs. So for those contracts, this is the person you're gonna find. You're gonna see me doing the walkthroughs, which is not, I don't think is difficult because I used to do that a lot. So that hasn't been that the issue because I was able to land and close those deals. But obviously getting the right leads, it's always like the biggest thing, right? But I made some mistakes again with hiring virtual assistants in the beginning, especially, and not because it was their fault. I think it was more my fault because I didn't monitor their performance, right? So you normally outsource that to, a different country, it could be India or the Philippines or whatnot, and then you think they got it, but sometimes they're working for you and they're working for another company, right?
Yeah,
So they're
I
not
think I
devoted to
think
you.
that's the misconception that especially new business owners have with VAs, that it's just plug and play. You hire them and
Right.
they're just going to go off and get you leads. Well, that's not the case.
No.
You actually have to put in sometimes even more of your own time to make sure that they're trained correctly. Because
Right.
like you said, they may be working with another business as well. But let me ask you this, because I'm coming from a market. Obviously, I cover multiple states, but my market, where my HQ is, where my headquarters is, I've got about 50,000 people or less. That's probably a half a block there in New York for you, right? So, how do you go about prospecting new business in your market? I mean, do you have, because I know we talked about it, you cover the 4 boroughs of the city. Do you pick a city and say, okay, I'm going to go after high-rise buildings, or I'm going to go after dental offices? How do you prospect businesses in your market?
Well, it's basically, for me, it's all of the above. But for me, if you're familiar with New York City, when you look at Manhattan, Manhattan is built like this, right? Some areas in Queens is horizontal, right? This is vertical. So you get a company here, you get a 50-story building, you got 50 companies there, right? So New York is so big and so competitive, but at the same time, it is difficult, but at the same time, it's a good thing, right? Because there's room for us. There's room for many companies, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, a lot of the New York companies and colleagues that will be listening to this would agree with me. To me, prospecting Manhattan is number one, right? Simply because there's bigger companies, bigger names. They have a bigger budget for the most part.
Sure. Well, let's do this. We're talking about sales, so this is going to bring us into our first segment of the show, and I'm kind of excited about this because I want to get your perspective on it. But this brings us to the first segment of the show called Live Sales Role Play. So this is where we're going to put your sales skills to the test. But before we dive into it, I need to give a shout out to our sponsor. Live Sales Role Play is brought to you by Clean Connect. Running a cleaning company is tough. Scheduling, emails, customer calls, it can feel like you're working 24/7. That's where Clean Connect comes in. They provide virtual assistants who understand the cleaning industry, so you can delegate the busy work and focus on growing your business. Free up your time, cut the stress, and scale faster with Clean Connect. Check them out today at cleanconnect-va.com and see what a dedicated VA can do for your company. So, Eric, live sales role play, I'm going to ask you a question, a common sales objection, and I'm sure you've probably heard it in your area, but I want to see how you would handle this. So, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So you're speaking to a potential new customer and they hit you with, so why should we choose your company over the 5 others that are bidding? How do you handle it? How does Eric answer that statement?
Well, I have a tendency of going back to the same thing I was telling you earlier. The fact that we are able to give you multiple services at the same time, right? A lot of companies just they're going to give you a price probably the same as mine, but the adaptability we have in providing different services, right? Whether it's floor care, painting, window washing, just adapt, just the facility or the adaptability of giving you quick responses for it. But basically, you get my point. Basically, what I do in reality is exactly that. I want to be able to let them know that I have multiple services that I can provide at the same time. And another thing that I use is when I sell, I don't necessarily go and try to push for the sale, right? Obviously, we all want to close the deal, but I don't want to be pushing it, sound pushing, right? At the end of the day, I want this relationship partnership to last. So I want to create that good relationship, good rapport with them. So one of the lines that I normally use is worked for me, but my reflection, if you see me, my reflection, my employees are my reflection, and the other way around, right? What you see me, and I think with networking, I've noticed that it's practically the same way everywhere, right? The way you are as a business owner is a reflection of your employees, right? So I normally hit them with that, and it gives them that credibility, it gives them that confidence and saying, you know what, this guy's not going to let me down. He's looking me in the eye, he's telling me all these things, and he can perform, because at the end of the day, that's what they're looking for, right? I could go there
Sure.
with a great speech, but if I can't perform, then
I like that answer. That's perfect. I mean, thanks for bringing your expertise to the plate there and answering that question. These games are always fun, live sales role play, because it's putting you out there, kind of like when you walk into a potential customer, right? You kind of have your pitch ready to go, but you don't know what kind of questions they may throw at you. So
right.
you have to be prepared as a business owner. But we were kind of talking sales, and we were throwing in a little bit of marketing in there as well. And again, I just keep going back to this. You're in the biggest market in the US. So I want to talk about marketing and visibility. So ShineUp Services, awesome story about how you came up with the name, awesome looking logo. How do you market ShineUp Services, and what's worked best for you?
I think what's worked best for me is having a credible, professional looking website. I'm still not 100% satisfied with it, but it's a great marketing tool these days, because you gotta have it. People are gonna go back and reference your website. Actually, this morning I was in a meeting with another marketing company that's helping me with doing a few things and kind of updating my website. But having that is important. It's worked for me because I notice the traffic, right? I track the traffic that goes to my website, right? I kind of track that. And another thing that I'm going to be working on, and I haven't been hands-on on it, but social media, right? LinkedIn, I'm more and more involved and more I'm more active, but I think other tools like TikTok is big these days. I'm a little disappointed. I'm still learning how to use TikTok, because last time I checked, there were people from 16 and 19 years old looking at my post, and I
Mhm.
wasn't too happy with that, right? Because I don't
Yeah,
think they're decision makers.
yeah, TikTok's just one of those. It's once you figure it out, it can work well for you, because everybody likes the YouTube, the long form videos, but then TikTok is more of a short form type videos.
Right?
I don't know for marketing your services if that's the best platform, but it's a good platform to at least show the videos, show the fun side, show your employees, to build kind of that culture for your company. But you
Right.
hit the nail on the head when you said LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best social media platform for any business. And I do see you on that.
I agree with you. I still post on a schedule, things on Facebook and Instagram. But I'll tell you what, the reason why I do these things is for reference, right? I always want my prospect to actually go back and reference that we're active, that we do exist, right? There's many companies that use these other Canva pictures. I don't want to say names of but
Yeah, just their post, the before and after
posts that
photos are
everybody,
generic.
well, those before and afters, I know you're opposed to those, and
I hate
so
them.
do I.
I hate them.
but, but but the funny thing is, what I don't like, I know you don't like those, but what I hate even more is the same generic pictures that everyone uses. Every single company has them,
Mm.
right? The same
The stock
AI,
photos.
right? Every company has them, and I'm like, if I were a prospect and I'm looking for a cleaning company, I can't trust this company because I don't know if those people really exist. And the reality is that they don't exist, and they know. So I think it's been taking me a while because I'm trying to gather more and more actual data, pictures, videos, and all these things to post them, right? And I think that's my goal, and it's been taking me a while because obviously I don't invest a lot of time on that, but that I think is one of the great tools we have.
So in marketing, obviously we know just by looking back at our posts what worked, what didn't work. Is there one marketing mistake that you learned most from? And did you change anything afterwards once you learned about that mistake?
Yeah, there was this actually. You're hitting me with great questions, and I'm so unprepared, but I'm glad you're asking them because because the I'm not going to say the name of the software that I purchased, right? But I kind of went, and being so new with the technology and the AI and all these things. Obviously, many companies are going to come to you and try to sell you their product. I chose this software, and not the software was bad, but the software was out of my budget. But the way I looked at it at the time was like, all right, it's a form of investment. It's great for me. So I went, signed it. So now I'm stuck with a monthly payment, right? For I think it lasted about a year. Couldn't get out of the contract. Now I'm spending money. Big mistake, simply because I didn't have the time to spend on it, didn't have the people to spend on it, to work on it actually. So it became an issue, it became a liability, it became an expense more than an investment, right? Um, that was I think but that little mistake or big mistake has helped me so much in these days because I think about it twice now, and I now structure. Okay, am I going to use it? Okay, how am I going to use it, and how much am I going to get from it? So all these questions I should have asked. I should have asked those questions prior to making that purchase. But then again, I'm glad it happened. I mean, obviously, I'm not happy with the money I spent, but I'm glad it happened because it taught me a lesson.
Yeah, those are just lessons that we learn as being a business owner. So I don't think there's, yeah, obviously it sucks. It's taking money out of your wallet that you could have put somewhere else, but also
Right.
it's a lesson that you learn so that, moving forward, you're not going to fall for another trap or whatever it is, that's out there, because you're going to know exactly what works. I kind of want to jump really quick. We're talking about marketing, but I kind of want to jump back into sales because from the sounds of things, it looks like you're a one-man wrecking crew. So I'm assuming you're the only one doing your marketing. You're the only one doing your sales, right?
I do have my son who helps me with marketing occasionally, but for the most part, I do wear a lot of hats. Yes.
Okay. Family business. I love that. You've met my son, Alex. So, he's active in the business. So it's good to
Yeah.
hear that you've got your son in there as well. Listen, as a new business owner, especially, and I mentioned this in the beginning, you kept telling me no, no, no to come on this podcast. And I kept twisting your arm until you finally said yes. But I kind of correlated that to sales because we get told no all the time, right? So when you're out there, do you get beat up when people tell you no? And how do you build your confidence up to just keep pushing and grinding out there?
You do get beat up when you say no, but this is the way I see it. In the beginning, I used to just take everything and anything, right? Just give out a price, maybe give a price out, and it was a low number. And they would say yes, of course. Where do I sign? Boom, they signed it. But then you end up realizing that it's not even worth it, right? They it's not worth it. So what I do now is to avoid those things, and now we're in a better place. But when we get a no, and I give an accurate price, I know it's accurate, and I know it's fair, right? But they come back to me for, hey Eric, yeah, I think you can give us a better price, and I said no, and these are the reasons why, right? I explain everything that you're getting, the value they're getting, right? And sometimes they said, well, you know what, that's great, I thank you for that, we're signing. And sometimes they say no, but when they say no, that contract that they signed before, where I gave him a lower price, reminds me that I made the right decision by sticking to my price, because it's just not worth it to work and not make a profit, right? It's a matter of numbers. This is a numbers game, right?
100%, 100%.
Numbers game.
Yes. No, and I love that, because I was going to ask you how competitive it is in your market in terms of other commercial cleaning companies undercutting the pricing, because it seems to be just an industry standard. Whatever market you go into, there's always somebody that, because it's a low cost barrier to get into commercial cleaning. So anybody with a couple $100 can buy a mop bucket, some rags, some cleaning chemicals, and get in and say they're a cleaning company, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to pricing. Do you know how to price your jobs? Can you sell first, then you get into to be able to do your pricing? So those are very crucial, and knowing your numbers is big, which it sounds like you're pretty good at understanding your numbers.
But Edwin, one more thing. When you do those things, right, you can always, what I do when I'm told no, I always go back and send an email. How's everything going? They told me no, but I gave them a fair price, right? My quote was right, spot on, because I knew how long it was going to take and I knew the service they were going to get. If anybody went lower than that, they're going to struggle and they're going to cut corners. They have to, right? So I go back and don't think, how's everything going, by the way, right? Three months later, 4 months later, and occasionally they come back to me and say, "Hey, Eric, can you stop by? I'd like to speak with you," right? And we you know we talk it again.
Yeah, the key to what you said there is it's follow up and communication. Just because they tell you no doesn't mean it's no forever. And it's happened many times with my cleaning company. You can ask my sales crew as well, that we'll lose out on a bid because we're pricing what we know we're worth, right? And that's what you have to understand. You need to price your services at what you know that you are worth. And if
Right.
somebody's under that, you have to understand it's business, right? So they may not be looking, they just might be price conscious and it's not so much service. Okay, great. But as long as you keep that line of communication open, I like to call it TOMA, top of mind awareness. As long as you're sending in those at least, biweekly or once a month emails, or shooting them a phone call, or visiting them in person, right? You're going to be the first person they think of once their current cleaning company messes up. So sometimes, and I think somebody said it, I think it was Josh Melton that said it. He loved being the second company. He loved being second place because he was always going to be the first one that they were going to call when something happened. So shout out to Josh
100%.
Melton for that. Great
100%.
advice there. So listen, we're moving right along here, but this brings us to the next segment of the show. And this segment of the show is called After Hours Confessions. But before we jump into it, we need to give a shout out to our sponsor. So After Hours Confessions is brought to you by DLN Web Studio. If your website is basic AF, if you're losing customers fast, DLN Web Studio is the go-to for professional businesses that want to stand out. From pixel perfect websites to killer marketing materials, logos, and more, trust the pros to lock in more customers. Ready to upgrade your online game? Head to dlnwebstudio.com. So Eric, this part of the show I like to call After Hours Confessions. And this is your opportunity to share a story about you or your business that no one has ever heard before, or maybe you have a hidden talent that not many people know about. Are you willing to share something with us?
I don't know how much I can share, but I'll say that I don't think the business, business is business. But I think what a lot of people, I guess people don't know about me is that I'm a big sports fan, right? I'm a basketball fanatic. You find me watching basketball when I'm not working. I'm playing basketball. I'm constantly thinking basketball. But the one thing that I do love is chess. I'm a chess player.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, yeah. So if I don't know if you play chess, but chess is a great game. And the funny thing is that I find myself watching chess games. So these chess games, my wife is like, "How are you watching a chess game?" But if you're a chess player, you understand that chess is it's just strategies, right? And so, do I link it with my company? I think so. I think chess has so many ways because what they teach it, the game teaches you that if you can't do it this way, you can do it this other way. And when I was back in college, that I skipped that part. I didn't tell you about that part about college business. I did business management, but one professor told me once, he said, you see that calculus thing is not going to help you in any way, really. But it teaches you that if you can't do it one way, you can do it another way. And I was like, I don't know, because I'm failing this class and I don't believe you that much, but I'll keep that in mind. And that was 100% right. And chess is just the same way, right? So
Sure.
I guess that's one thing that I like to share with you guys.
Amazing. Love it. So basketball. So are you a Knicks fan? Or are you a Nets fan?
No, I grew up watching Michael Jordan.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily have a team. I like Denver now with Jokic,
Yeah.
but the Knicks I'm not a big fan because they were always with Chicago. They were always at it.
Sure.
But no, I watch any game, but no, I don't necessarily have a team now because Jordan retired. So um, I don't like Chicago. So
All right.
It was just Jordan.
I'm still waiting for my Sonics to come back. We'll see
The
what happens
Sonics, no.
there.
Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, no.
Yeah. No, no. Jeez. Wow. Okay.
That was a
Okay.
team, right? That was a good team.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they beat the Sonics in '96. Your Bulls. I think it was 4-2. Great to watch. Seeing Rodman
Good
and Kemp
series.
lock up. It was a great series.
Yeah.
So, but cool. Chess, basketball. That's great to know. I think next time we're at an industry event or something, we'll have to find a court and hoop it up somewhere. So,
Yeah, 100%.
so hey, let's. I want to back up a little bit to kind of the sales and marketing piece again. I love talking about sales and marketing, especially from somebody in a huge market like you, right? But community involvement, I know in smaller communities is huge. I do a lot of community involvement. Do you do community involvement, and does networking play into any of your marketing strategies as well?
Yeah. So I'm a member of the Manhattan Chamber of Manhattan. I try to go to meetings and stuff. Don't always find the time, but I think networking is important. In New York, by going to these events, I mean, we you talked about where we met in the I think it was the Profitable Cleaners
Yeah, in
in
Denver.
down
Yep.
in Denver. Yeah, and it's recently in Nashville where we reconnected. And the funny thing is that I actually closed a deal. Um, Here in New York, that one of the companies down in Nashville was looking for a vendor in here in New York, and I was so lucky that I sat next to this person, and when I flew back in New York, and we exchanged a few emails, just kind of reconnecting, what kind of retaking the conversation we had, ended up closing a very good contract, very good deal that I started a week after, right? And this is recent. I mean, we just
Oh yeah.
got back
Yeah.
from there.
Very
So
cool.
networking and going to these events, 100%. I recommend that 100% because you may not feel like going. I mean, I'm not a super social person, and I'm not very talkative, and I'm not that guy, but it's business, right? And sometimes those connections that you make, I mean, I can text you, I can call you, and I know you're always there. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to call Edwin, but I have to. Uh, I've met people, companies here in New York, guys that I can text, and just last week somebody reached out to me and say, Eric, how do you do this? How do you do the career? And I'm like, I'm no expert, but I'm going to share what I have, right? So in New York, you need that. In Seattle, you need that. In Los Angeles, you need that. You need that everywhere. You
Yeah, you
gotta
need it.
network.
You do. You do. And you meet great people. And yes, they are industry specific, but I mean, I'll give a shout out to Ricky Regalado because he puts on a good deal. He had that deal bar this time around, and it was great.
Which is very
I think a lot of companies, were able to secure some deals, and you were able to meet somebody that was at that event. If you didn't go to the event, would you have met that person? Probably not, right?
right. And
So,
Ricky's thinking way ahead of time, right? Ricky's seeing it and that's exactly where this is going, right? Because we need each other.
mhm. Absolutely. So let's jump into, because I'm also a culture guy. I love to talk about culture. I love to talk about my employees. You've got 42 employees, you've got some subcontractors. Let's talk a little bit about hiring and training. So, first off, with hiring, how do you find your employees? I know with me, I can put an ad out and I'll get a handful of people. I can only imagine how many people would respond to an ad or whatever your method is there in New York City.
That's exactly the way I do it, and that's the way I've been doing it for so long. In New York, there's so many. I use Facebook groups, and as I think people should actually do that as well. Put out an ad, and you get hit, right? You get hit back, and you share phone numbers, and sometimes they don't believe because there's scammers out there, and then you get all those things. But in reality, that's how I normally get the with employees, and we get, we get hit back with interest, and we take their information, take their number, and then the question, the interviewing part starts, right? There's so many questions and so many things you need to know before you hire somebody. But here in New York, the culture, I don't know if you want me to touch on how we, what we do for the culture here in New York, but hiring, at least for the hiring process, that's how we normally get the employees.
So when you bring them in, they're sitting at the desk across from you or wherever you meet with them. Do you have a set of questions that you ask to make sure that they're a right fit, that they're a good vibe, they'll vibe with your company?
I do, but it's mostly a conversation, right? There's so many little key things that I need to hear from you, right? Why did you leave the other company? Why are you unemployed? How long have you been unemployed? What was the last time? What was the last job you had, and why did you leave? Right? I need to know that, right? Because sometimes they tell you, "Oh no, I had an issue with my boss, and this and that." Red flag, because you're telling me your story, but I need to hear their story, right? And so you may not be telling me the truth. That doesn't mean I'm not going to hire you, but I want to continue having that conversation because I need to know what else you have, right? I want you to understand the hours. I need you to understand exactly how we do things here, right? And we
Sure.
do things here by the book. So I need you to understand our perspective, our culture, and I need you to fit in.
Yeah, I like that. I always have some non-negotiables as well that I ask for the questions, and if they aren't on that same level with those non-negotiable questions that I ask, then it's probably a no-go. It's not going to be a fit. But once you bring them on, they go through the process with you. You love them, boom, let's bring them on board. What's your training process with them like? Because here's the thing with a lot of new commercial cleaning business owners, what I hear, and these are the horror stories. This is why the commercial cleaning industry has this absurd number of a 200%
Turnover,
turnover. It's
turnover.
crazy, right? So a lot of new businesses bring them in, they train them one day and they think that's it. And then the next day they quit or the next week they quit. So do you have a training process that you have in place once you bring them on board?
So we do have a training process, but mainly I invest the time and the hours training my supervisors, right? I have two supervisors. So those supervisors will train these employees. But the reason why my turnover is so low is because when we schedule the jobs, we schedule them geographically, right? This employee lives in Queens. If you schedule this employee around this area, I'm looking at a map and I know exactly where, obviously, at this point, I know where they live and what accounts I have around that area. When this employee finds that I'm so close to home, it's so convenient to me, it makes it so much easier for them to stay, right? So for me, that's what's brought up. That's what's brought success for my company, right? I used to do it back when I was with the other company, and I do it now, and it's the same result, right? Just scheduling geographically favorable for them, as obviously they got to perform, but if you make it convenient for them, you won't have that issue. But if you have, I've seen where people live in the Bronx and then they're scheduling in Brooklyn for 2 hours, for 3 hours a night. At some point, they say, Eric, you know what? This doesn't work out for me. So ahead
Yeah.
of time, I already know that could happen. Distance is always an issue, and so that's one of the strategies I use. And I don't know if it could be used somewhere else, but in New York, it does work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know rent and everything over there is very, very expensive. What's minimum wage in New York?
Well, it's currently 16.5.
So obviously you're not paying that, right? You're paying more, or are you
I'm
sticking
paying
to that?
more. I'm paying more depending on what it is. It all plays a different part, right? I'm paying from 17.5, 18 at some employees, and there's some employees that start at 16.5. Because we have no choice. Sometimes we bid a
Mm,
particular job, and it's a budget issue, and they got to start at 16.5.
gotcha. With paying them a little bit above minimum wage to get them started, have you learned over the years that having benefits is crucial? Having insurance or just any kind of incentives or anything like that, or do you offer them currently?
I'm not there yet. I'm pretty sure it is beneficial for the company and for the employees, but I think although pay is important because it is, but the convenience, like I mentioned before, the conveniency of being close, or I love this account and it's just so convenient for me. I could pick up my kid and then I can do blah 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 blah. All those things seem to be more of a factor for them to stay than making 50 cents more.
Gotcha. Goes a long way. Goes a long way.
Right.
I like it. I like it. So, in the past, especially when I started, I had a lot of hiring mistakes. I hired some of the wrong people. I like to say cancerous type people who get into the company and can really crush the vibe or crush the culture that you've got going. In your 2 years, have you had a hiring mistake where you brought on the wrong person?
Oh, it happens. It happens every time, right? But I share a story that happened a couple of weeks ago. We're doing this job. We're doing this cleaning, deep clean, and one of my supervisors is running the clean, and one employee goes, "Oh, I thought we were told we were going to work 8 hours, right?" Obviously, the client is there; they're watching, and the employee goes, "You know what? I think they're wrapping up around 1 o'clock. They had another 3 hours to go. They were like, you know what? Let's just slow down, right?" One of my supervisor heard that. She's like, "This employee said that. Let's slow down," and and obviously, just to stretch it all the way to 4 o'clock, right? And I was actually on my way there because I wanted to see how things were going. And I had a conversation, pulled the employee to the side, try to explain how bad that is for a company. Because by you saying that to the rest of your coworkers, it creates the same, "Oh, really? You know what? We should slow down." So I pulled them all to the side and I said, "Listen, there are cameras around here. Our client is going around and they're putting their trust in us, right? And by us working slowly, they're gonna think that we're taking advantage of them, right? So it has happened, and those employees do exist. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I think the saying is hire slow, fire fast. So you want to make sure you get the right person on board so that you're not having to fire. But if you do get them on board and they're bad, get rid of them as quickly as possible. So,
Yeah. Just by the way, I ended up sending the employee home.
see, yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
while you were doing that, I just quickly looked up because I brought up the cost of living down there. I was just looking at current rent prices in New York City. A studio bedroom is $3,268 a month. One bedroom's over 4,000, two bedrooms 5,500, three bedrooms almost $7,000 a month.
And they're small.
That
That's
is
all
crazy.
accurate. That's
That
all
is
accurate.
crazy. And then, but that goes back to the whole cost of living and the wages and everything like that. That's just tough to live in that type of area, right? So, wow.
What
It's not
that's
it's
when you
not
got
just tough with sales, it's tough with, probably getting those employees too.
100%. But that's when you got to have empathy for your own employees, because these are employees who are working from 7 to 7, from different multiple jobs, right?
Sure.
They're working whatever they can get their hands on, and then they're working for us. So you got to understand that they get tired. They don't have enough money. They're missing an hour. They're telling you, "Eric, I need more hours. Can you get me more and more and more?" And sometimes I feel bad because it's New York is so expensive that you can't do. What do you do?
Right. Yeah. Well, being a business owner isn't easy, right? If it was, everybody would do it. So I think
Right.
business and entrepreneurs are a different breed. So, hey, I've been noticing you've got some kind of saying written on the whiteboard behind you. What is that? Do you mind sharing? I'm sure other people are
Yeah.
looking at that.
Yeah, well, it's my kids. Every time they come to the office, they like to leave me a little, little note, little, motivational wording or passage or whatnot. This is a Bible passage that my daughter learned, and she put it out there. My son, also does the same. So, that's one. I guess that's one thing they do when they come here. They get so bored, I guess, and they write something for dad.
That's cool.
Poppy.
And I see the chess piece back there. So now I do know that it is legit.
Oh, you see it? Where
You
is
are a
it?
chess player.
Oh, it
Other
is.
side there. Yeah.
It's on the other side. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, this is going to bring us to our final segment of the show. And this is kind of my favorite, but this segment of the show is called Rapid Fire Roulette. But before we jump into it, I need to give a shout out to our sponsor. The Rapid Fire Roulette is brought to you by Wildscape Media. Does your cleaning business need a social media glow up or a pro commercial that makes folks go, damn, that company is badass? Meet the dynamic husband and wife duo who'll jet anywhere to capture your story in epic style. Ready to stand out and turn heads? Hit up wildscapemedia.com and let Wildscape Media paint your brand in bold. So, Eric, Rapid Fire Roulette. I'm going to ask you 5 questions and you get 3 seconds to give me a quick answer.
10 seconds.
So you ready to play the game?
I don't know, but let's bring it on.
All right, let's do it. Favorite late night food spot in New York City?
Unless it's so bad, I'd say McDonald's.
Oh, wow. Okay. Subway, taxi, or rideshare?
Subway.
I've been down there. The Subway. I actually, you're a basketball guy, but when I went there, I did want to go to Yankee Stadium. So my wife and I rode on the Subway. It was jam packed, shoulder to shoulder, for going down to the Bronx to go watch a Yankees game. That was
But
nuts on the
it's
Subway.
still the best. Is it still the best transportation there is here?
Get you where you need to go quickly. Yep. So if you could land a dream cleaning contract with any New York City landmark or building, which one would it be?
Madison Square Garden.
There you go. Watch your basketball games there too while you clean. Perfect. So I love this one. Your go-to hype song.
I don't know. I don't know that one.
All right. We'll leave it at that. So final question is your OG cleaning tool.
A yellow dust rag. The yellow that wrap the dust. That's the
Okay.
best. That's the best invention there is.
Love it. Cool. Well, we'll have to figure out what your go-to hype song is eventually, but yeah, you can text me or email it to me, right? Thanks for playing the game though, man. We just try to keep it fun on the show, break it up a little bit and have a good time. So listen, before we close out the interview, I do have just a couple more questions for you. What's next for ShineUp Services? Any big goals on the horizon for 2026?
Yeah. We're growing and we're growing rapidly, which is scary. At the same time, we got to be very careful with that. But we want to scale. We don't necessarily want to keep growing. Growing, as you grow, revenue grows, expenses grow. But we want to scale, right? We want to scale. We want to expand nationally. We want to go to different states at this point. We want to stay in New York a little bit more, maybe another 6 months, just trying to, gain more and more and more. But as we go, we want to go nationally. And that's I think that's my goal.
It's a very ambitious goal, but if you use subcontractors, you can get it done the right way. So very cool. Be exciting to see that and watch your journey through that.
Thank you.
This is another one that I like to ask everybody because the answer is always different. What's the best advice you've ever received? And it doesn't have to be just in business. It could be in life in general.
I'll tell you in business. Mr. Anderson once told me, know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, it's very difficult to have a business. Very hard, very tough. So I I'm learning my numbers as we go, and I become a little better and better as I go. But know your numbers. Um, Numbers for this, number for that, numbers for bidding, numbers for employing, numbers for your insurance coverage. Know your numbers. Once you have your numbers, you can figure out everything else.
100%. And I think Mr. Anderson, you're referring to Mark Anderson, right?
Mark Anderson.
Yep. And so he's in my neck of the woods here. We actually just talked yesterday, and we keep in touch quite a bit. But actually, one of his cohorts on his podcast is Ed Selkow. And he was actually my mentor when I first started in the industry. And he actually started multiple companies in your neck of the woods in New York City. So these guys, when you reference Mark Anderson, these guys have been in the industry for years, and they know what they're talking about.
And I'm going back to Mark in a few days because when we met, he's like, "What is your percentage for this? And what is your number for that?" And I'm like, and I just wanted to run away because he was so serious about it. Like, Eric, how do you not know? You need to know these things, right? I had an idea, but you got to be precise, and that's one of the things that he did tell me. You got to know your numbers.
You do. Otherwise, your business is never going to grow. So
Right.
yeah, no, love that. Now, what about for you? Any advice that you can give for the new cleaning business owner? Because, a lot of new cleaning business owners listen to this podcast. What advice would you give them?
Well, if you are already a business owner, I guess you passed the stage where you should have asked yourself if this is for you, because this is not for everybody, right? But if you pass that stage and you think this is for you, and you're giving up all the things that come with this, um, be disciplined. I guess being disciplined and getting on, the best thing that I do is, and the reason I think is the part of my success, right, where I am in my little small company. It's just, I wake up in the morning, I get on my knees and I pray, right, ask for guidance and wisdom. And that's come a long way for me, and it's been with me. God's been with me forever. So that's the best advice. But get on your, because you don't know all the answers. That's the reality. I don't care who you are, you just don't know everything. It's impossible. But once you have that wisdom from up above, you can go anywhere. But if you're not disciplined, there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
You gotta be disciplined.
Wisdom, discipline, love it. Yeah, no, that's great advice. Listen, Eric, thank you for joining me on the show. Again, I'm glad I kept twisting your arm and you finally told me yes, you'd come on the show. So this is amazing. Can I ask this? Is this your first podcast, or have you been on others before?
No, this is I think I did one with Angel once. I don't think it aired. I got to look it up. I haven't seen it. So I think this is I would say this is my second, but I don't think anyone's ever asked me the questions I don't necessarily like you right now. You put me on the spot, and I don't know.
No, this is good. I mean, you shared your journey. We learned about you. We learned about your business. I mean, your insights, you're building culture, you're growing your business, your approach to sales and marketing. I mean, what you've accomplished in 2 years is amazing, man. And you're in a big market and you're crushing it. So appreciate it. I know our listeners are going to get a lot of wisdom and advice from you. So I appreciate you coming on the show, and I wish you continued success, man.
No, Edwin, thank you for having me. I learned early on that you were a good guy, and I appreciate you took the time to actually, set this up for us and for the industry. I do use Cinch. We didn't talk about quality.
Oh, we didn't, yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm working on. I'm setting up with Cinch a system to do some quality inspections, and that's huge. And I'm going to release that maybe at some other occasion that we get to meet, but it's going to be a big thing for us.
Absolutely. Love it. Well, again, appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Eric for being part of the show. If you've enjoyed this episode, drop a comment, share with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next story of entrepreneurs grinding after hours. Catch you next time.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Built After Hours podcast. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share with someone you know who is building after hours. Remember, be bold, take risks, and get results. See you next time.